and welcome to Circles and Spaces. We're back for season 2, guys. We made it into 2023, which is amazing. So a happy new year to everybody. It's so good to be back together. I have Dan, my co-host, and guys, I'd love to welcome Charlie. Charlie is part of our Alpha Youth team, and it's amazing to have him. He's actually going to be, at times, taking over from Dan, because guess what? Dan's time is up. We're firing him.
Dan's retiring, yeah. I was telling the guys earlier that a lot of my social hangouts at the moment are my friends' 40th birthday parties, which tells me that I'm in a certain era, which is maybe a little bit, too old for youth ministry. I'm still going to stay in youth ministry, but I still think we need some younger voices in this podcast. And so Charlie's 25, 16 or 17 years old. You started as a youth leader.
I did, yeah.
And you are getting married this year.
I'm getting married this year,
wow.
guys.
Invite only.
Of course.
Sweden.
Maybe we
You're
can
name, address.
Can we do a live link? We could do a live link for everyone on Circle Spaces to watch the wedding if they want to.
Yeah.
If you can run that by Hannah for me, then
Hannah's in.
Then we can.
Hannah is in. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so awkward.
Are you going to be no cameras at your wedding?
If it was up to me, we would 100% no cameras, no photos. But you want to look back at stuff and be like, oh, what a great day.
Because it's changed. I mean, I got married, obviously back in the day, 2010.
Whoa! Married.
Right? Yeah,
How many years is that then?
Yeah, it'll be my 30th year anniversary.
13?
Yeah, 13, yeah. So, back then, we had a few disposables around and we had a photographer, but no one had smartphones with photos. So when you look at weddings now, everyone's got their phone.
Oh yeah,
and
we're definitely gonna do that.
And no one's enjoying the moment. So a lot of people say, "Hey, don't take any photos or videos in the service until the official photos come out."
Yeah, there'll be moments where it's just don't have your phone out.
Yeah.
What's been, as someone who's you were a youth pastor, you've been involved in youth leadership, but now you're getting married. What's a relationship key that you would give to any other single, dating, engaged
this is my advice to me, really. Yeah, go on.
I feel like I never want to put myself in a position where I'm the one giving advice because I know everything, because I don't really know. I'm not the best relationship person. I'm not a relationship guru. But I think one thing Hannah and myself have learned is that coming from different cultures, and Sweden and the UK is not that different, but there's still some cultural differences, and you've got to learn to accept and also be this is from the UK, but I'm not going to bring this into our marriage. It's kind of you hear people talking about it with their families. It's
that's so cool.
What do you, as you're building this new family, what do you want to bring from your old family, and what do you want to leave behind?
Wow.
And I think it's similar with your countries as well. When you're really deep, those countries have formed you as well and made you who you are. And so there's certain things you really want to bring in from that, and some things you really don't want to bring in. Sweden have a massive trust in their government and in people.
Don't you here in the UK?
Why not?
Depends who's in power, guys. No, I'm joking.
We would like to remind you all that we at Circles and Spaces hold no political stance. Please enjoy the rest of the conversation. Lol.
Okay, it's a different show. That's why Dan's leaving. He's going into his other career. This is so cool. And I guess maybe this is your first time listening to Circles and Spaces and you're wondering what am I listening to? And this is a podcast designed for us to really talk about more of our failures than all of our strengths, right? What are we actually feeling gosh, I need a lot of help in this area, or this is something that I really want to change, or this is something that I'm really working on. And it's focused around how we can be better at leading Gen Z. So Dan, do you want to tell us about something that's coming up this year?
Yeah, for sure. So Circles and Spaces, it's lots of things. It is a podcast, but it's also gatherings, and sometimes they're online, sometimes in different countries, different cities. And this year in 2023, we've got Circles and Spaces gathering in London as part of the Leadership Conference 2023. Leadership Conference meets at the Royal Albert Hall, and we're going to be running a breakout seminar called Circles and Spaces for youth leaders and young leaders, and we're going to be talking about influence versus leadership. I think when I look around and I chat to different youth leaders, there's a deficit in leadership. Young people don't want to be leaders because of the responsibility, because of they don't really want the authority. It gives them extra anxiety. But the thing is, if they don't lead, someone else will. And so the whole thought would be, well, why don't we just not talk about leadership, but talk about our influence? Because everybody has influence. And it doesn't matter whether you influence 10 people or 1,000 people. It's like, how do we steward that influence well? So we're going to be listening to loads of different people talking about how they steward their influence well in loads of different spheres, from ministry, sport, arts, creativity, business, all this kind of stuff. And we're just going to, hopefully, everyone that comes together will be encouraged to use that influence and go to the next level. So if you want to join us for that, just head to leadershipconference.org, and there you can sign up for Circles and Spaces, and there'll be loads of different like-minded people that you'll get to meet and connect with.
That's great. And you know what? We're going to kick off the year by really thinking about, like, what are our intentions this year? Like, what do we want? Like, how do we want to frame this year in terms of what do we want to do in our youth ministries, in our own lives, I guess, and the way that we lead? And I would love to throw that to the team here, first of all. Like, what's a 2023 motivation, habit, way of life, rhythm that you are trying to build?
We've just moved back to London, and we want to be really intentional about instilling some practices into our life, into our rhythm that will help us to become more like Jesus and to know Jesus on a more intimate level. Practices like Sabbath, prayer, fasting, reading scripture, simplicity, generosity, hospitality. And we're doing it with a group of friends, and we're actually doing it on a course called Practicing the Way. But we're really excited about getting into that this year.
That's awesome.
So John Mark Homer, he just released that Practicing the Way, and it's like a phenomenal course.
Is it great?
So, yeah.
Oh, maybe I should look into it.
Definitely, yeah, sure.
For me, Azande, it would be, I need to say no rather than saying yes. I think I have been a yes man. Maybe it's because I'm a bit of a people pleaser. I don't know. I think it's because when someone's asked me for my time and I feel like I can bless that person and help that person, I don't want to say no, because if I can help someone, because a lot of people help me in life.
Yeah.
So I kind of try and carve out as much time as I can for other people. And then you always say yes to things, and then you realize you've said yes to way too many things, and you're stressed. And then unfortunately, when you're stressed, the pressure gets taken out on your wife and sometimes the kids. And, you know, and I need to be able to say no, but I'm terrible at saying no.
It's 2022. That was like top for me.
Yeah.
Say no more.
There you go. You can learn from Azande.
No, as in, like, I just think that I'm a bit like you, Dan, in the sense of, like, I love to be able to help, but then I always realize that when I say yes to too many things, I end up not even doing them that well. Or, like, you're right, then, like, the quality of, like, when I'm just hanging out with people, I'm thinking about the many things that I'm meant to be doing. It's just not worth it. So it's definitely, I think I'm still growing in that as well. But great one to have. Mine is, I did this in the beginning of last year, and I'm picking it up again. So maybe there's something that you started last year and you let it go. You can pick it up again, you know? So I'm picking this up again. I go for a walk every day for like 15 minutes, and I just before work, and I'm like, okay, what do I want to intentionally do today, and who do I intentionally want to be today? And that's always around, like, maybe me reading something or listening to something just before I go on the walk. And I just really, like, allow and I know this sounds weird, but I just really give God permission to, like, really reign in the day and, like, really speak, and not just go on autopilot, because I'm such an autopilot gal. Like, I'm like, let's go. I know, blah, blah, blah. And I've just been really trying to be, just creating more opportunity for God to, like, work through me than me to just, like, do my thing and just be really influenced by everything around me, or, like, things that I find enamoring instead of being enamored by God and His presence. I'd say that's probably.
I think that's amazing. Like, setting aside some time in solitude on your own.
Have to do it.
God, like, what do you want to do today? Like, how do you want to use me today? I think that's great.
Do you take your phone, or do you leave it at home?
I leave my phone. That's the most distracting thing, I think. I don't have any music. I don't have anything. And it's so funny. I don't even take, like, my headphones. So I look like I'm speaking to myself. So my whole apartment block, but that's a really big thing for me, like, to look like I'm an idiot. And that's like, and I'm like, I don't care. You know what I mean? And my whole block must think, oh, she's lost it this year, but it's okay.
Yeah. That's it. I love that. Well, we reached out to a few youth pastors and youth leaders from across the globe to ask them what they're focusing on in 2023. So have a little listen to these.
What's up, good people? My name is John Joroge, formerly known as DJ Johnny Celeb, based out of Nairobi, Kenya. And in 2023, I'm focusing on building creative spaces, tools, training in media and apologetics to help young people create wholesome content that will reach their own generation in the ways of the Lord. Peace.
What's up, everyone? This is Dion from Hope Church George, SA, South Africa, and I have the privilege of leading our young people. And this year we're continuing to focus on relationships, authentic relationships. So our small group leaders, making sure that they're loved, cared for, and that God has an incredible plan for them. And so we're excited to see so many more of our friends come to know Jesus, following with everything that they have. Come on, let's go. 2023.
Hey Alpha Youth UK, Maureen here from Hillsong Church London. Thanks so much for asking me to share, I guess, my heart for our youth and what we're believing in God for this year. One of the words I feel that God has kind of put on my heart is more, just believing for more, and actually like not just going, oh yeah, God's going to do something great and it being another year, but actually no, God is going to do something more of Jesus in these young people's lives. And one thing I've been challenged with is actually with youth, it's actually not, like, it's not easy. And I think we know what we do. We do Sundays, we do youth nights, we do crews, all that fun stuff, which is amazing. But actually, I think this is the year to challenge those things and actually be okay with going, oh, let's actually think, why do we do this? What do we do it for? And let's be bold enough and brave enough to maybe change it or challenge it or try something different.
Hi everyone, Tom Gomez here from A Jesus Youth. As we have listened and dreamed into 2023, we felt really simply the Spirit invite us to focus on two overarching themes this year. The first being students learning to love the Lord their God with their heart, soul, mind, and body. And the second, students loving other students. So the two commandments that Jesus said were the greatest are the two that we felt like he wanted us to grow in this year, which made a lot of sense to us. More specifically, we really felt like the Spirit wanted to build a community of students who love to sing, pray, and serve the poor. Bringing righteousness and justice back together is a huge part of our vision for this year, and we felt like that's going to happen in those arenas. We break our calendar year into 3 segments: be with Jesus, become like Jesus, and do what he did. We are currently in the Be movement, in a series focused on imparting hearts that have an inner burn for God. So this is all about presence and inner flame for our students. The plans are, of course, easier said than done and sound a lot better than they usually turn out. But we are excited about what's ahead for our youth in Portland and really expectant that God wants to do some cool stuff this year.
Wow, I'm inspired.
I love that. What a big job. Do you know, I was actually thinking about this quite a lot, about leading a generation and like really believing for something. And I love what Maureen said. She was like, no matter what 2022 looked like, it can be so easy to then, and Dan, you and me had a meeting yesterday and you spoke about this, it can be so easy to kind of frame the year with a similar mindset, but to actually refresh and reset and be like, hey, like, I do believe in like a God of more. Like he is so great. Like he always like requests us to like, you know, broaden our minds, broaden our like perception of who he is. And when I think about like more, I always think about normally when you're doing more of something, there has to be less of something. Right. And maybe I'm wrong, but normally when you're doing more of something, there has to be less of something else. And I just realized, like, in so many ways, when we're trying to lead and we're trying to do and we're trying to be, we can feel as if, I don't know, we can like I was saying before in my own life, we can almost absorb everything that's around us, and then we put that in as like the more that we're doing. But actually, I really believe for me this year, and I think like for a lot of youth groups, it's going to be probably less of like all the crazy influence that like we're going to make this like more fun and more this and more that, but it's actually going to be like, oh, do you know what, like less of the world and like less of the things that are like distracting, less of the things that we think are going to be more exciting, and like more of God and his presence. And it's like, I love what you were was saying about the rhythms, like the hospitality and the generosity and all of those kind of things. It's going to be like more of the characteristics of God and less of the things that like seem really shiny and really fun. So
it definitely seems to be like this move from like attractional youth ministry where it's like, you know, come on Friday night, you get free Tesla, you know, you get all this stuff.
That's dance youth ministry.
I'd definitely be trying to look younger and sneak in there. But yeah, that move back to like just small groups. So that's what Dion in South Africa, you know, what he said. He's like, this year they're just really focusing on small groups and like, you know, looking after the health of their small group leaders, you know. And I think that's so important before we're sort of like praying and wanting revival, because if revival happened, like thousands of teenagers come, truth is we're probably not going to be able to, a lot of churches wouldn't be able to look after them and disciple them. But if we just kind of, if youth groups kind of are responsible for the young people they have and help them, then once they've got that structure into those guys are getting discipled and formed and growing, then you could probably look a bit more wider to help, you know, outside of that. And because the one from Tom was a bit similar to that, right?
Yeah, it definitely seems to be like a kind of trend, like you're saying, across the globe. I loved what Tom said. He said they split their calendar year into 3 segments. The first is be with Jesus. Second is become like Jesus. And the third is do what he did. And I think like one exciting time for those young people to fully embrace like becoming apprentices under Jesus and following Jesus
so cool.
and knowing Jesus. And forming into the likeness of Christ. And I think if we can see this happen globally, like we're going to see a generation of young people who are like just genuinely know and love Jesus, and that could change a lot of things. So I think you're right. Like, it's such a trend, and it's so exciting to see.
Can't wait.
We also got one in from John in Kenya. And I love what he's doing because he's building like a media hub to help young people grow in their media skills, create content, and then sort of get it out there across Kenya. And it's really interesting because young people don't tend to be legalistic. Like they're very like, you know, they're listeners, they're not judgmental. But unfortunately, the algorithms on TikTok and other social media platforms are all moved towards aggression and division and like just and hate. So sometimes these young TikTokers, they create content which is about hope and encouragement. It doesn't go far. But then they say something which is a bit more polarizing, divisive, judgmental, and because it gets loads of reaction, those posts go really far. And so, because we're all shaped by our affirmation and appreciation we get on social media.
Yes.
Like, you know, if you post a picture of your dinner and no one likes it, like you're not going to do that again. You know, it's like it happens to us all. But I still,
like I'm a chef now.
I'm Chef Live. I'm still posting what I cook, whether people like it or not. But the reality is that, you know, young people are coming across legalistic on social media because they're realizing that's getting them more likes and followers. And what I love about what John's doing, he's like helping them create content. And then when it goes online, it's not about how many likes and followers it gets. It's just about them holding true to the message, which they create the content with. And I love that because we need to be able to create without the fear of what people are going to say, but still doing it the way Jesus did, which is full of grace, love, hope, forgiveness. And I think that is the message that needs to be coming out, whether it goes viral or not. Like we need to help young people hold true to those values.
These are so good.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, why don't you subscribe to our podcast? And we've got all the social media channels as well. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you name it. We've got it. So why don't you give us a follow on there?
And also, as you know, we love to hear from you. And this podcast exists because of your voice notes. So we want more of your voice notes. Please let us know, number one, who do you want to hear from? So who would you like to be a guest on Circles and Spaces? But also, what do you want to know more about? What do you want us to talk about? Would love, love, love to hear. Why don't you send us those voice notes and we will talk about the things you want to hear. Awesome. Thank you.
See ya.